Approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Judy, seconded by Stacy. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Stacy, seconded by Judy. Any discussion? Thank you.
I'd like to comment on the contributions that our community has given to us graciously. We are accepting donations of $3,300 from various organizations and community members. We will use those funds to improve or to enhance the mission of the school district, but again, in conjunction with the wishes of the donor. And we're very appreciative and we thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Presentations and recognitions. There are no recognitions this evening, so we'll move on to our report from our student representative.
All right, my turn.
Your turn.
So, starting off with Wildwood, in the month of January, on the 25th, it was Friends and Family Day for kindergarten. Moving on to February, on the 13th, it was the 99th day of school celebration for kindergarten. And on the 26th and 27th, first grade had a field trip to the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. For OHA, in January, on the 11th, it was the Saints North roller skating party. And on the 24th, there was a world music concert at St. Andrew's Church. And on the 29th, the Copper Street Brass Group performed for OHA. And then moving on to February, on the 1st, it was the PTO Family Movie Night at OHA. And on the 14th, it was Zephyr Spirit Day. And on the 15th, it was again the Saints North roller skating party for OHA and Wildwood. This month at the middle school, they are recognizing a mental health awareness month in which students are educated by posters and informational videos that were displayed throughout the month. And starting tonight, Mary Poppins Jr. opens for the middle school's musical, spring musical. While it did just start 4 minutes ago, don't worry, there's still another performance tomorrow night at 7 o'clock and on March 2nd at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Finally, moving on to the high school, both alpine and Nordic skiing have come to an end. And I'd like to give a congratulations to the Matabele gymnastics team, who placed third at the state gymnastics competition, and a shout out to student Bella Fratellone, who took the Class 1A title on February 23rd. So that's first place. All around first place. I think that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
On January 31st, there was an all Matamina High School band concert. And from February 1st to 3rd, there were performances of the high school's production of Peter and the Starcatcher. On February 9th, the high school had their winter formal dance, or the Silver Bell Dance, which was hosted at the Target Field. I'd also like to note the several snow days we had during the month of February. And it is my understanding that if we do in fact have school tomorrow, it will be the first full school week of the semester.
We're going to have school tomorrow.
There we go. That's a big day. I'm just making sure.
That's a good observation.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So first full week of school. And I think that's fantastic. Just today, the boys wrestling team attended the state championship, which was the first time that's ever happened in Matamina history, which also I think is fantastic. Unfortunately, they lost to Simley at an open duel. However, 9 students will continue to compete individually tomorrow. Also, the boys hockey team will attend the state championship in the coming week, and its final ranking in the section in Section 4A will be decided in a game tomorrow night against Totina Grace at 7 o'clock at Roseville Arena. Finally, upcoming on March 4th, there's a grades 6 through 12 choir concert at St. Andrews at 7 o'clock. Now, if you would look into your calendars, you would notice there's actually several music events happening in the month of March. That is because March is the Music in the Schools month. There are music performances happening all the way from kindergarten up to the high school. So stay tuned for those. That's all I got. Thank you.
So March 4th is a 6 through 12 choir concert. Does that happen every year? Huh.
Started a few years back, but last year was canceled because of snow.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that doesn't happen again. But last year it was canceled, and it's very difficult to schedule because it's the number of students we have. The first year they did it was held in the gym, and it wasn't as nice acoustically as St. Andrews, and it was very, very crowded. And so they moved it to St. Andrews, but then last year with the snow, it snowed that night, and it was canceled. So it's a wonderful concert. They do some mass choir pieces, right, Luke? Is it just one or a couple? Okay. So, yeah. And Luke, you'll be there?
No, I won't, unfortunately, but.
I know you're in choir, so I was hoping you'd be there. All right. Approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Julie, second by Stacy. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion items, calendar events. Are there
We
any?
approved all of them.
Yes, we do it one vote. It's easier. Calendar events. Any events people would like to call out on the calendar beyond the ones that have already been mentioned? Want to talk about that now?
Oh, yeah, we could talk about that, sure. So one of the items is our school board study session on Thursday, March 7th. We discussed the possibility of canceling that one. The one agenda item we have currently for the study session is to discuss the budget, but our discussion, we just had that discussion in the Finance Committee, and Bill will come up and give his summary of that a little later, and there won't be much new to discuss in a study session on March 7th, and so I'm recommending that we cancel that.
And it was moved to the 7th because of spring break, so it would be next week. So do we need a motion to actually have that happen, or can we just cancel it?
I think you just cancel.
Do we just cancel it? Is everyone okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll need, okay, yep, thank you. Other items on the calendar of events, on March 25th, from 8 to 4 is MSBA Day at the Capitol. You need to register for that if you're going to attend. That registration came out through email this week. I think that's all I have. Anyone else want to call the items out? Okay.
Does anyone else think they'll go to the day at the Capitol?
I'm going today at the Capitol.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Luke, are you interested in going?
So it's March 25th?
It's March 25th. I can forward you the information, but to go
Sure,
speak
yeah,
with our legislators about priorities around funding and different things around our school. Okay.
It actually is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought you were being sarcastic.
Class.
Going to the Capitol.
You'll have to weigh that.
Both are very educational, so it'll be a tough choice. Strategic planning overview. Alice and Patrick.
I think
We're gonna roll.
We should wheel away, right, out of the way here? Yeah. We've got things, all right.
Okay, thank you. The purpose of our presentation is to provide the board and community with an update on the school district's comprehensive strategic planning process. So through this process, we will define what makes our district unique and push ourselves to articulate who we aspire to be by defining our educational beliefs, mission, and strategies for the future. It's created by the community and owned by all of us. So there's no question that this is a big undertaking. Patrick and I have been involved in this process since November, and we serve as the internal facilitators. So our job's to ensure that the process takes place, but we don't know what the outcomes will be, and we don't have all the answers. The outcomes will be determined by the people who participate in the process, and we are here to share with you an update about the process and how you and members of the community may get involved. So, strategic planning is a big undertaking. However, we can think about it with 3 questions. Who are we? Who do we aspire to be? How are we going to get there? And you'll see the answers to these questions reflected in each part of the strategic planning process.
So if you take a look at the screen, you get a little bit of an idea of just the general planning process. This is something that Superintendent Barb Dufferin brought to the district. It's being facilitated by Dr. Bill Cook. We've been fortunate to work with him out in Farmington with strategic thinking. We did some training with him to become internal facilitators, and he's been out to the district now a couple of times to work both with the planning team, and then today he was here to do some training with the action team. And then Alice and I will be the internal facilitators, so we'll be working directly with the action teams and Barb to go through and make sure that the action teams stay on task, that they stay moving forward, and that they're really doing the work that the planning team set up for them. This is a long process. We started back in January. This is going to go through August, when we'll come back to you and we'll ask you to approve the plan. And then at the end of August, when the staff returns, is when we'll actually present this to them. And we'll bring this out to the greater school community, and then they present it to the rest of the community. So what is strategic planning? Alice talked about it a little bit, but this is really where we're pushing ourselves. We know that we're good, we do many things good, but we need to articulate who we aspire to be. We need to come up with a plan for how we're going to get there. If you look down at the second bullet point, we're going to define our excellence beyond just the traditional measures. And really, this is not a plan that you're going to see anywhere else. This is unique to Mahtomedi. This is something that we've created. It's created by our community, and it's, as Alice said, we own this, and the community should feel like they own this as well when we get through with this process. This is a nice chart that we used during the training that Dr. Cook used to just explain the process a little bit. And this is some of the work that the planning team did at the beginning. They worked on the belief statement, the mission, objectives, the strategies, and then the parameters, those things with which we have to work within some of these parameters. The next step now that we're moving into is the action plan, and the action teams are going to take those strategies and they're going to come up and they're going to do the work to figure out how we bring those to life, how we move forward with those.
So when you think about strategic planning in our district, there's really 2 big components. So there's the planning team and the action teams. And I'm going to talk about the planning teams, and then Patrick will talk about the action team. So the planning team had their first meetings in February, over 2.5 days. And so that's the first stage of the strategic planning process. And so that was almost 30 people, and so it was teachers, students, community members that came together. They worked on our belief statements, our mission, as well as the objectives and strategies to accomplish our mission. So they worked in February, and then they'll return back again on June 11th, and their work is going to guide the work of the action team. We thought it would be fun to share a few photos with you of the work taking place. We met in Hugo. So right now the work that the planning team did is in draft form, but we have been talking about, because everyone is very curious what happened there and what did we talk about, and I think if we could capture some of the feelings over those 2.5 days, is that everyone was really excited to be there. They were really engaged in the conversation, really checked in, and ready to talk about difficult things. There was a lot of trust built in that room to talk about. Again, thinking back about that question, that second question that we shared at the beginning of the presentation, who do we aspire to be? Today we had the action teams together, and I overheard a conversation, and someone said, I just love that question. I love when you say, who do we aspire to be? And that's really what this group worked on. And so several themes that emerged, and I know you can read them up here, but I thought I would read them out loud too. Our desire for students to define their own futures and pursue their passions as agents of their own learning, inclusive and empathetic communities, the importance of a broad worldview, and the reciprocal nature of learning from contributing to the greater good. And then strategies that came out of the planning team, we've started sharing with our community. And these are the strategies that came out of the planning team's work. And when we've worked with Dr. Cook, we've found that there's a lot of power in sharing the planning team's work out loud and saying them out loud. And we feel like it gives voice to the words that this group worked so hard and carefully thought about which words were chosen for these statements. So we'll start with, we will define learning and teaching without barriers.
Will ensure the social and emotional well-being of students with an emphasis on mental wellness.
We will create the organizational capacity necessary to pursue our mission and objectives.
We will provide students opportunities to draw out and pursue their passions.
We will foster reciprocal relationships of learning experiences for all students with civic, service, and community groups.
And we will expand existing worldviews to promote understanding. So the next phase in this process is the action teams. And this is equally as important as the planning team. This is a great opportunity for people within the district, people within the community to get involved and really impact this plan. These teams are going to be led by 2 or 3 leaders, and these are district leaders that volunteered and that we selected to lead this process. They did meet today, we did meet today. Dr. Cook brought us through the kind of what they need to know and some things to work on in the next few weeks leading up to the action teams meeting. We're hoping to have at least 15 to 20 people working on each of the strategies, so that's quite an opportunity for involvement. And the action teams are going to create plans that will answer the question, how will we get there? So again, Dr. Cook was with us today in the district. And to begin begin the training with the action leaders, this was the first time they saw the strategies they'd be working with and really started to see what the work was that they were going to have. A lot of excitement in the room, but that was also a little bit overwhelming as people realized kind of what their role was with this. But as we moved through the process and talked more about it, it was really exciting just to see the groups start to talk, to dive into the strategies, to pull apart the words, because the planning team spent a lot of time with words, making sure we had the right words to really make sure that the message was correct of what we were trying to do. So it was fun to see the action team leaders appreciate that and, again, really dive in to try and figure out what those strategies meant. So a lot of excitement in the room today. So we have a video that Alice put together. It brings together some of the information from the planning teams, and this is actually the video that was sent out to the community, so some of you may have already watched it. If not, this will be the premiere for you, so that's exciting. So we're going to watch this. Again, this was sent out to try and recruit people to be on the action teams, and then we have some information after this about how people can actually get involved and what they need to do.
been, one, really exhausting, but something that's very rewarding, something that I think is going to take our district in a new direction. And from that perspective, it's really exciting for a teacher to see this kind of commitment to positive change and maybe redefining what we do as educators is something that I'm really looking forward to.
This was intense, but it worked. So I think all of us as a team were able to hear one another. I definitely felt heard, and I think it's very important that everyone felt that way. And honestly, there were so many different perspectives too that I hadn't thought about, and I think a lot of us challenged each other in our beliefs of what we wanted the district to be.
It's really been an honor to be part of a strategic partnership with the community to think about a new way of education here in the Media school system. It's really been fun to hear the first range of views and points to the strategic plan that really I think is going to open up a new way of learning and open up the hearts of our kids in the future in this Media area. It's been great to be part of it, and I'm really excited about what's going to happen in the future here in this area.
It was really interesting to be part of this experience and really have a voice as a teacher with this group of very diverse people from all over the district. Students, community members, administrators. It gave us a good chance to really reflect on what our district values and where we wanted to go, because right now what we have is good, but we know that we can make it better. And I'm just really excited to see where we're going to go with this plan in the next few years. So I think it's really terrific that our leadership is invested in the strategic planning process and bringing together teachers, parents, administrators, community leaders to have dialogue about what the future looks like. What I appreciate is how we're pushing it on and thinking conversations very robust and thoughtful. It's been led by a lot of to progress through the planning process. All right, I am excited to sit in a room with people with lots of different perspectives and understand where they're coming from, and it just makes our district stronger to see so many people excited to have us move forward.
It's been a lot of fun being this week, seeing lots of different people, different community members. For me, being able to meet school board members, teachers that I haven't seen in many years, and other special people like Dr. It was awesome to be a part of this experience this week and to help the district grow and strategic planning. So it's been awesome.
I felt honored to be part of this group. I was inspired by listening to other people's opinions, and I feel very optimistic about the future for Media.
I think the process is really unique and something I never expected when I agreed to come into this, but I think it's really authentic and it gives us a whole new perspective of how to look at the district and how it's going to make a huge change in the district. And I chose to get involved because I'm an alumni and I really thought that the community needed a lot of change when I was in the district, and I thought if I feel there needs to be change, then I should get involved and help curate that change.
Watch it again. There we go. So there's some information on how to get involved, and I hope you're inspired by that. There was a lot of excitement in the room those 3 days, and it was hard work. It was a lot of discussion, a lot of hard discussion. but people who really cared about this district and where it's going. So I hope you're excited about that. I hope you could feel that. And I hope people do get involved in the action plans, because this is really an opportunity to take that work and put it into something where you're really going to see some differences and some changes in this district. You shouldn't have seen anything that was easy up there. Things up there you see should be complicated. It should be things that make you think, how are we going to do that? And that's the challenge ahead of us. If we're going to be great, if we want to get to that next level, we have some hard work ahead. So I hope, if you haven't been involved in the process yet, I hope you are involved in the process. Please go out to our website. You can contact either Alice or myself. Barb is always available also. But this is really good process. And Barb always says it'll be great, and I think she's right. It's going to be really, really great. So thank you. We appreciate the time. We look forward to coming back, and please let us know what questions you have. Thank you.
Questions from board members? Julie?
So what's the deadline for signing up?
The deadline right now is listed as March 8th. But we'll be a little bit flexible with that as people are coming in, if we get some information after that.
And what's the time commitment of participants?
So the action teams will meet March 26th, April 2nd, April 16th, April 30th, and May 14th from 6 to 7:30, and the meetings will all take place at Matamidi High School.
How many people have signed up?
As of today, we have about 25 people that have signed up, so we have some work to do to get up to those numbers that we want. So we have some information going out to the planning team and to the action teams to really start to contact people and drum up some excitement about this. We also have some information that's going to be going out to the community in the White Bear Press, and we'll continue to contact our families so that they know how they can get involved.
So I found the students at the planning meeting to be exceptional in terms of contribution and thoughtfulness, and so I was wondering if you had a specific plan to address the high school students, I mean, because that's who was there and our recent alumni, to make sure we have them on each of the action teams? Or if Luke's going to help us with that?
I'm writing all this down.
Well, we did hear from co-leaders today that mentioned reaching out to students, but then we also talked about us contacting Student Leadership Council as well and making sure they were aware of it. But part of our message was to both the planning team and the action co-leaders that we're working on a message to them that that genuine connection from them to reach out to students is the most meaningful way to get students involved in the process. So we're hoping that our planning team members and co-leaders and other teachers in our district will reach out to students as well and encourage them, because we agree, we loved hearing their voices, and they were confident, and it was really, really informative to hear from them and their experiences.
Luke, do you have some ideas about?
Well, yeah, so we've got a meeting next Wednesday. I'll be sure to bring it up then. Tell the council that's 45 kids easy. Tell them to tell everyone else. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks to both of you for all the work you've done to move this forward. It's been a ton of work, tons of logistics, and just all the communication that you put out there. So thank you for that. Yeah.
First reading of policies. Barb?
Okay. So the policy committee met, and went through these policies, and now we're bringing them forward to you. I'll just quickly go through, I'll just kind of go through the changes at a high level, and then if you want to talk about any one of them, just you let me know. So number 102, the equal educational opportunity policy. There were some changes. The definition of sexual orientation in the Minnesota Human Rights Act includes gender identity and expression, and so the list of protected categories changed to match that definition. So that's the change there in 102. Policy 205, I'm sorry, let me stop. Did you have any questions, or should I just keep going? Okay. 205, that now with meetings, we can use interactive technology We could Skype someone in as part of a meeting if we choose to, for example. So that's what is included there. Policy 206 is public participation, and public is no longer limited to the citizens of the school district, and this provision is in there for, and we already actually honor this, so if somebody comes to us that's, say, a parent of an open enrolled student, they can address the board, so that's what that clarification was. It doesn't necessarily change our practice. Policy, sorry, I just have to check, policy 413 was the next one. It's the same change as 102, as a change in definitions to the list of protected categories. 413.
There was another one in 413.
Oh, okay, sorry. Do you want to read that off right there? You've got it in front of you? Yeah, go ahead.
It adds a piece on remedial response in section D. It's more of the protected classifications, so,
Okay.
yeah. It must come from the Human Rights Act as well.
Okay. Policy 419, tobacco-free environment. There were some additions to the definitions, and I can pull those up. We had already addressed e-cigarettes previously, but then there were some additional, sorry, let me just, there were just some additional definitions of what tobacco-related devices mean, were the big, and so there's some language like including but not limited to, so that we would catch those, our new tobacco-related devices that come about. So at any rate, that's what the language is around that one.
So do you think that this is a policy that may benefit from being read, like in students' homerooms?
Well, it's...
Because there seems to be some, some issues.
Oh, well, I couldn't comment on that offhand, what we'd benefit from, but I will, in terms of reading in the homeroom. But I will say to you that there is policy 525 added some language that there needs to be, that students need to be apprised of school board policies. So I'm skipping to policy 525, which we're also talking about. And so what we do when we change a policy, then as an administrative team, we go back and say, how does this affect our practice? That's kind of, so once you've approved this, that would be a conversation we have. And so to that end, we can certainly add that to the discussion, your recommendation of how do we get this out to students? Mhm.
Well, I was just wondering if that would be appropriate to post that policy, like in bathrooms or anything, just to help. I don't know how to deter it.
I think that might be part of the implementation. I don't know if you want to post the policy. It's not a lot of fun reading there. It's many pages long. But there might be some sort of graphical piece Alice could help with, that would go into public view for students.
We will certainly have that included as part of the discussion and how we would implement that. But again, you have, we've updated one policy already to make sure that students are apprised of school board policies. So that would naturally, it would naturally fall into that, so.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. So policy 421 clarifies that an award or recognition plaque with a $5 or less resale value may be accepted. So you may accept your plaques. So that one that you won as a school board for being recognized as, you get to keep that. You get to keep that, so that's what your policy says.
You just can't resell it for more than $5.
That's right.
With our name on it, I'm not sure who would buy it for more than $5.
There you go. That was policy 421. So policy 504 had some clarifications to headwear restrictions, so we would include, let me just get to that. Instead of calling it hats that are not allowed in the building, except it was headgear, including hats or head coverings unless there was a student undergoing chemotherapy, medical situation, student religious practice or belief. So it cleaned up some language I would imagine it doesn't change our practice at all, but it did clean up the language around that. Okay. We will, sorry, I'll have to flip back to, so policy 509, there was an update to a form that is referenced in there, but we decided to remove that link from our policy saying where to find the form on the website of MDE because that sometimes changes. And so we decided that we would just make sure we keep our form updated to be in compliance with what MDE has. And so there's no need to go and look for it on the MDE website. So that's why we took that part, that's the change to that policy. And then policy 525 is what I mentioned before in terms of that change there. Oh, I skipped 506? I did, sorry. Okay, page 506. There were some, let's look it down here. This was the e-cigarettes and tobacco again. So there was some clarification to that one. There's also some clarification around verbal assaults, verbally abusive behavior would include words, symbols, acronyms, or language in there too. So some clarification with that, with what defines threatening language. So, okay. So that gets us to the end of the policies with the MSBA recommended changes. Were there any questions?
So policy committee reviewed these, discussed these, and was quite satisfied with all of them. And so the process is, we have to read them 3 times, then on the 3rd reading, we can actually take action. And so this is just a first reading. If you have changes, we would ask Barb to investigate things, look at things, if there's anything that we would like more information on. I don't think there is, so those can just keep moving forward.
Okay.
Okay?
So there's a new policy, policy 722. This is recommended through MSBA as well. But it would be a completely new policy for us. However, I don't know that it changes our practice. I'm looking to Laura here. But when I look at this policy, I don't see anything in here, we didn't see anything in here that would change our practice drastically, but it does spell it out for us. Laura is nodding, okay, off camera.
Thank you.
Okay?
Any questions on the policy? Okay. So those will just continue to move forward. We won't have the March 7th meeting, so March 28th, we'll look at those again, if you think of something, and then we'll keep moving forward. On to action items.
Okay, so the first one there, at our board retreat, we looked at our school board operating practices. That is a document that you have in the past approved every year. You've taken action on, you've reviewed, updated, and approved every year. We looked at that and we could see that likely derived from a lot of what was in Policy 209. Policy 209 is a policy that we have already. And so we decided that we would go back to using Policy 209 as our grounding operating practices each year and review those and determine what it was, ask ourselves, how are we doing along the lines of what's outlined here in the code of conduct or the code of ethics. And so that was the decision that was made at the board retreat over in having conversation about that. And so I'm bringing it forward to you to rescind the school board operating practices and just replace that with policy 209 as our annual review of what we thought about.
Policy 209 is already on the books. We're not approving a new policy that already existed.
We're just switching.
Right.
I move approval.
Thank you.
I second.
Moved by Judy, seconded by Julie. Any discussion? We did discuss this already once at the retreat, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of annual policies with no changes.
Yes, and so these are policies that have no changes, but we review them annually. So I am just recommending that we just approve them now And we don't need multiple readings because there are no changes.
Thank you. Moved by Stacy.
Second.
Seconded by Judy. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are moving through the agenda. Action item C, approval of revised 2018-19 school district calendar.
So we started this conversation at our study session regarding snow days and what we want to do about this. We had some conversation. I talked to administrators about this, talked to some teachers about our conversation as well. And so what I'm bringing forward to you is the recommendation that we add back on March 29th. That is March 29th is a staff development day for grades 6 through 12 and also kindergarten. And then we have conferences for grades 1 through 5. We talked about the disruption to rescheduling conferences or canceling conferences because parents really rely on those times. And so we didn't want to do that, but we are suggesting that 6 through 12 would be a school day, and then K through 5 would not. And conferences for 1st through 5th grade would still continue. And so that is one of the, you see that there are 2 school calendars listed there because it's up to you to decide. So one of them does not have the makeup day, it just has the listing of the snow/cold weather day closings. And the other one has those closings with also the makeup day for grades 6 through 12 on March 29th. And so our recommendation is the makeup day on the 29th for grades 6 through 12.
Again, it goes back to the hours that we need to make up for high school compared to elementary.
That's true. And so if you look at the cover page, we do have, we did put those in there. Sorry, I'm having trouble opening it. There we go. So you have that in there so that you can reference the number of hours that are needed for grades 7 through 12 versus grades 1 through 6 in kindergarten, so.
So would you also like us to amend that to include the changing of the school board
Different
study
calendar.
session?
It's a different calendar.
Oh, it's a different calendar?
Right, there's
Okay.
2 calendars. There's the calendar for the school district for student days, and then there's a
Okay.
separate calendar of school board
Okay.
meetings.
Okay, so we're going to approve that too.
Well, it's in the consent.
Okay. Well, I just thought it changed while we were discussing it here. So if we have to include it in something, how can we include it in our,
School board meeting calendar. This is on the school district calendar, and then the school board meeting schedule or calendar is in the consent agenda. So the changes are listed there.
okay.
And the change is mainly about the July retreat.
Right, but now we made an additional change, I think is what Julie is saying. So we decided meeting on March 7th. So that'll be on the consent agenda for the 28th, sort of backwards in time, and it'll be fine.
I'm sorry.
But you'll put
Okay.
a notice out.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that was
You were talking about the
included.
same thing, but in different ways.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure it made it in there for public
Yes.
information. Okay.
Okay. So the recommendation from administration is to have school on the 29th for 6 through 12, and that's one of the calendars. The other calendars is not to do that and leave it as it is. Do we have a motion for either one of those calendars for further discussion?
I move to approve adding the school day.
Okay, the calendar with the school day, moved by Judy. I'll second the motion. Any other discussion?
So will buses run that day?
Yes.
Only one loop, though.
The secondary.
Yep. In the Star Trib this morning that came through the MSBA notes, there are bills being introduced into the House and Senate, but we don't know if they'll go through or not. So in Kirk Schneiderwin's minutes or notes to MSBA board members on Sunday, he said, don't count on that. That could take a while and might not go through. And to, Carla Nelson put through the Senate, Brad, who put it in the House, to have districts held harmless for the 3 polar vortex days, and that would could take care of the problem for a lot of districts. Many districts have already taken days back. They listed some districts, Stillwater went to school on President's Day, and I think Apple Valley, Rosemont, they took back a day, and some others. So most districts that I'm seeing in things I'm reading are adding at least one day back for students to make up the lost instructional time. I think that's important, and we can't count on the Senate and House acting in a timely fashion before the end of the year, because I think when we discussed this at the study session, it was very clear we don't want to add days till June. So this is sort of our only opportunity, and I think the long notice to parents is important in terms of letting them know that school will be in session that day.
And we may have additional snow days.
Right. It's
But not
over.
tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I want to make that clear. All
Not
right.
tomorrow.
But it seemed like in the initial conversations that the governor was going to make, but he doesn't have the authority to.
He doesn't have the
Okay.
authority. It has to,
Okay.
but
'Cause
he has said he will
he's said
approve
strongly
the, right, but he'll
supports that.
approve the bills, he said again,
Okay.
but they have to get through the House and Senate.
Okay.
And as Stacy knows, that could happen quickly or not so much.
Okay.
And Luke will find out on day at the Capitol. So we have a motion and a second to put school back in session on the 29th for 6 through 12 using that calendar. Any other conversation, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Committee reports. AMSD. Mike is not here tonight. I'm trying to remember what last AMSD was. I was there. Oh, I thought-
Was it the commissioner, our new commissioner, or
I
was
think
that 2 ago?
That was 2 ago.
Okay, well.
Yeah. I think it was legislative still, though. Was this the one where the senators came, or is that?
No, that was
Were you-
longer.
That was, okay. Well, we'll get a 2-month report next month.
I guess so.
But I have been in contact with Mike since he was not able to be here tonight. AMSD is in the morning, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. He will not be able to make it if there's another school board member who's able to attend. Are you planning to go, Barb?
I will be there.
Okay,
Mhm,
so no one else is able to attend. Barb will be able to report back.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Julie, Maeve.
We just had our February 25th meeting on Monday, and there was a lot of talk, just a couple updates on the mission moment this month was from the Matamidi Area Food Shelf, and again, I think I've shared this with you before, but there are currently 86 kids participating in that program. And it has gone up in the last 3 years from 47 kids to 81. So the needs are changing. And the majority of those kids are from preschool to age 5. Those are the majority of the users. The applications for scholarships have now closed. They have started their work on grants. They had 29 applications for grants this year. They'll give away 70,000. So, also, tickets for the MAIF Gala are on sale. And if anyone would care to donate beyond what we have decided to give as a board, please, if you wanted to share that money with me, I'd be happy to pass that along to the board to help purchase a big item for the gala. So.
Do you want to update the board on the item you've put together for?
We are
from the
putting
board?
together a basket of books from the school board surrounding work in the district that we've been involved with. We'll include the book Screenwise that Barb did the community meeting with. We'll include a book from Community Ed on modern read-I. I tried to get Alice's book, but it's out of print. We will be just including things that are relevant to the work we've been doing. So, thank you for contributing.
All right. School Board Association, I shared the MSBA days coming up. I think that's about all that is there. 9/16, Kevin is the new representative. He had the notes put into the packet. Any other reports from other committees?
I'll just report on the elementary PTO. They are getting ready for their Wildwood Book Fair, which will be at the end of March, and the Fun Fair will be April 12th. That's earlier than in years past. And they're really reassessing how best to communicate to families and try to help facilitate more connection with families who can't always make their meetings. So they are looking at that. Also, the community ed meeting, I'll just report on that quickly. A couple of things. Well, one of their big purchases that I think everyone at OHA will be excited about is the Gaga Ball Pit that will be going in the spring. So that was they're always coming up with exciting new things, so that's a good one. Also, just a quick update on as I think everyone knows, our library is going to be shut down and then rebuilt. And during that time, we won't have an alternative location, but they've made an agreement with Community Ed that they'll have the hold location. So I don't know how many of you use that process. It's great, but you can reserve a book online or calling the library, and then you can, once it's in, they can either call you or email you, or you can show up and then pick it up. Well, since there won't be a library for about a year, they are going to provide that location here. So I think that's a really great partnership. And then just want to remind everyone about the community lunches. The next one will be next week, so March 6th. And then if you want to put the other ones on your calendar, it's April 3rd and May 1st. Thank you.
Any other reports? I think, were you going to give the finance committee report?
Oh, yes, thank you. It's like, yeah.
Good evening, thank you. Just a quick report from the Finance Committee. So the Finance Committee met earlier this evening at 5:30. Both Stacy and Julie were there, as well as Superintendent Dufferin and other administrators were there as well. We had the opportunity to go over a couple of agenda items related to next year's budget planning process, so some of which we talked about at the last board meeting on February 14th. We started by going over the 2019-20 enrollment update and just looking at where enrollment is sitting here after the priority window for open enrollment for next year ended on January 15th. We then looked at the 19-20 general fund budget assumptions. So by assumptions, I'm talking about what we believe the legislature will do with state funding, or our best estimates on what the legislature will do with state funding, and then some assumptions on the expenditure side as well. So really the only update from that was related to the state aid assumption. We talked on the 14th about building a budget assumption on 1.5% new money from the state. The state budget forecast, as Stacy updated the committee on, came up today, and it's less than previously estimated. So we had a conversation at that committee about revising that assumption from 1.5% down to 1.25% on the state aid front, which would reduce our revenue budget based on our enrollment by about $50,000. So that was really the conversation surrounding assumptions, and then we just talked briefly about budget planning as it relates to those assumptions. So that's really just a high-level update. Any questions that you would have on that committee meeting at all? It was exciting, given.
Sorry, missed it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, any other reports?
I forgot one other piece of information from MAIF, and that is that Julie Bixby will be the next president. So, thought you might be interested.
Okay. Superintendent's report. I asked Luke before we started which things he was going to cover, so I can skip those. But congratulations anyway to gymnastics, wrestling, and hockey for those great seasons. So, or the continuation of a great season. So yesterday was Bus Driver Appreciation Day. So thank you to our bus drivers. We do appreciate all the work getting our kids safely to and from school. And I know that it can be a difficult job trying to pay attention to the road and pay attention to the fun that might be happening behind you. So we're thankful for all that they do. Last week was Board Member Appreciation Week, so thank you also to our board members. We know that this is really a huge community service that you do for us, and your leadership. We certainly recognize and appreciate your leadership here. And next week is Paraprofessionals Week, so it's a big month. So let's make sure we thank our paraprofessionals and for all that they do to support our students and support the teachers also in the classroom. I have my tickets for Mary Poppins for Saturday, so I hope to see you there. I'm looking forward to that. Because honestly, and I'm not being sarcastic, there's nothing I love more than middle schoolers on stage. I do. I love that and the idea that there's I think there are almost 100 of them involved in some way. Yeah, that's going to be wonderful. I'm excited about that, so. So we went to History Day at the high school, which was really fun. It was the first time the high school had done History Day, and it was so fun to see the different topics that students chose, and then when a student gets to choose a topic, the depth that they would go on that topic. And I always appreciate Julie's ability to just keep a conversation going and really engage with students. So I kept walking away, and she had 3 more questions she was going to get through. And she really, Al Capone really kind of, you weren't leaving. Yes, do you know that about her?
I do know that about her.
So she kept on bringing up one more thing, and then that would get the student excited to join in. So
So it was like a science fair for history.
Yeah.
And I had never seen the history fair. Clearly, I'll be going back.
Yeah. It was fun, so. And then Lucy and I went to visit Wildwood and OH this week. It was this week. It was Monday. Oh, the days. And we were fortunate enough to see Jeannie Zlanis. They're working with our students in STEM class, and she had gone and harvested some of the wildflower seeds from OH. Yeah, that I think you were involved in planting, and she brought them over to the Wildwood students. They were getting ready to, they were preparing them so that when the snow melts, that they could be planted. So here we go. Your work continues. So. And then also at OH, we got to get down on the floor. You got down, up and down from the floor a lot easier than I did, I noticed. And we joined a morning meeting. And then I really enjoyed seeing the iMovie book trailers, too. I got some ideas from that. So I didn't know if you had anything else that you wanted to.
No, I really liked the book trailers.
Mm-hmm.
The classroom. No, actually, Jackson was in this class. This is his literacy class. And the teacher was very responsive to the students because she had said there were some students who were hesitant about writing these book reports and asked if they could do something different. And she allowed them to use iMovie and create these book trailers. And they were wonderful. They were so good. And so it was really great for the other students to see also the possibilities of how they could approach learning and showing what they know in different sorts of ways. And so it was great to see. Yeah, I was really impressed. And I like seeing Jackson too, so.
So I just want to put in one more plug for coming out and joining an action team and drumming up some business there. We would love it if you would participate. I will say again, I'm going to reiterate, our planning team, having students involved made such a difference. It was amazing. So getting students involved and really talking about what it is we want for the future of our district and how we're going to get there, because this is the part where we get to talk about things more concretely, not completely concretely, but more concretely, and then our commitment to you is that we take what you give us and we move that forward. So I really, it's important work, it's exhausting work, and it's inspiring work. So I hope everyone will come out and join us for that. And so I think with that, that's my update.
That's it? All right. Anything else from board members? Motion to adjourn? Second? We're adjourned. Thank you. Bill?